Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to make this crocheted bohemian shopping bag, and it is created in a number of parts. The first part is the squares, the second part is the straps, and you will need to sew the squares together and attach your straps. You can embellish it any way you'd like. I've used some beaded chains, and I've used keychains to actually attach the straps to my bag. You can either sew them directly onto the bag, and you sew them onto one side and then the other, both on one side of the bag and then the reverse of the bag, and then they act as shoulder straps. Okay, so to complete this project you will need your choice of yarn. I would highly recommend Drops Cotton Light. It's quite a robust yarn that finishes the bag really nicely, and it is made out of cotton and polyester and not wool, so it gives a nice finish. You will need 4 balls in the main colour and 2 balls in the second colour. If you'd like a contrasting bag, there will be yarn left over. You can use one colour to make it a solid coloured bag, but I like the two-tone better. So as I said, 4 balls of your main, which I've used white, and 2 balls of your brown. Okay, so the other things that you will need for this project are a pair of scissors to snip your ends, 2 hooks, and they need to be the sizes that really go with your yarn that you're using. I went slightly bigger because I wanted my bag to be slightly gappier, so I've gone with a 5mm for the base of my bag, and I've gone with a 4mm crochet hook to join the squares and for the strap itself. You'll need a yarn needle to sew in all your ends. If you are choosing to attach your straps to your bag by bag accessories, then you can use your rings to do so. I will be using simple key ring centres, and so you'll need 4 of those for attaching the 4 sides of your bag, 4 straps, 4 edges. And I've also gone with a few chain embellishments that I'm going to dangle from my bag. I think those look quite pretty, and just give the bag a nice finished feel. Okay, to begin we're going to do a chain of 5. So we need to start off with doing our slip stitch, which is our slip knot. Wrap the yarn around your fingers to create a loop, and then pull up a loop. Then we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch, the first chain that we created. So we can yarn over and pull through the loop of the first chain and the loop on our hook, and that creates the circle that we're going to be working into. Next we're going to do a chain of 3. Then our first round we're going to do 15 treble crochets into that center circle. If you're in the US, this is double crochet. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook and pull up a loop. We've got 3 loops on the hook. Going to yarn over and go through 2 loops, and we're going to yarn over and go through the other 2 loops. Okay, sorry, this is splitting slightly, it's this cotton. Okay, so then we're going to do another 14 of them, so we end up with 16 including our chain 3 in that center circle. So yarn over, insert your hook into the circle, yarn over and pull up a loop. yarn over and go through 2 loops, yarn over and go through 2 loops, another one, so if you go ahead and complete your 15 treble crochets into there, this chain 3 counts as your 16th treble crochet. Remember, that's double in the US, and meet me back. Okay, so we've just got to the end of our first row. We've done our 15 treble crochets, the 15 doubles in the US, and then we are going to slip stitch into the top of our chain 3 that we started with. So we insert our hook into the 3rd chain, yarn over and pull up a loop and pull that loop through the loop that's on your hook. Then we're going to slip stitch into the gap between the 2 trebles. So insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop and pull that loop through the chain that's on your hook. So then on this row we're going to work in between our previous row stitches, and we're going to do a chain of 4, and then we're going to treble in between the 2 trebles of the previous row. So yarn over, insert a hook in between the 2 stitches, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through 2 loops, yarn over and go through 2 loops. Remember, that's a double in the US, treble in the UK. Then we're going to chain 1, and then in between the next 2 trebles we're going to do another treble. Chain 1, and then do a treble in between the next 2 trebles. And I want you to do that all the way around. Chain 1, treble between, chain 1, treble between, and I'll meet you back here when you've completed that. Okay, so we've just come to the end of that row, and I've had to do this again, hence the background change, because it didn't record. So what we need to do is slip stitch into the 3rd chain that we started with, but as I'm using a different colour for my petal row, I'm going to insert my hook into there, into the 3rd chain. If you're using the same colour, just slip stitch into there. If you're bringing in your new colour, I would recommend you do it here. So wrap your new colour over the top of the hook and use that to slip stitch through the loop and the chains that are on your hook, and then tie a knot in the 2 ends to secure it in place. So the next row we're going to slip stitch into the chain 1 space between our trebles, between the doubles and the US. So we're going to insert a hook, yarn over and pull the loop through. Now I like to keep these behind my work so I can work them in as I go, and it just saves sewing in at the end. Then we're going to do a chain of 3. Then in the same chain 1 space we're going to complete so our next row we're going to slip stitch and work in between our stitches, so we're going to be working in the chain spaces. So we're going to insert a hook in that 1st chain space, pull up a loop and take that loop through the chain that's on our hook. Then we're going to do a chain of 3. This is going to count as our first treble in this round. And then we're going to do a cluster of 2 trebles. So in a cluster we work the stitches together. So we start off with a treble, so double in the US, remember, yarn over, insert your hook into that chain space, yarn over and pull up a loop. Then we're going to yarn over and go through 2 loops, and we're going to stop there and not finish that treble. And we're going to do another one, yarn over, insert a hook into that same chain space, yarn over and pull up a loop. We should have 4 loops on the hook. Going to yarn over and go through 2. Doesn't want me to. And then we're going to, I've got a couple more threads that I haven't wanted to go through the loop. There we go. Right, so we've got 3 loops on the hook. Now we're going to finish this by yarning over and going through all 3 loops. and that's our first cluster. Then we're going to chain 2, and then in the next chain space we're going to do a cluster of 3 treble crochets. Remember, in the US that's double. Wrap my threads behind so I can work them in. So we're going to yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. 3 loops. Yarn over and go through 2 loops. Then the next one, yarn over, insert your hook into the chain space, yarn over and pull up a loop. 4 loops. Yarn over and go through 2 loops. And then our last treble to start off with in this gap is yarn over, insert your hook into that space, yarn over and pull up a loop. We've now got 5 loops on the hook. Going to yarn over and go through 2 loops. Now to finish, we're going to yarn over and go through all of the loops on the hook. There we have it. And we're going to do that again, going to chain 2, then go into the next chain space and do a cluster of 3 trebles again, 3 doubles in the US, yarn over, insert your hook into that chain space, 3 loops, yarn over and go through 2 loops, yarn over, insert your hook into that chain space, pull up a loop, 4 loops, yarn over and go through 2 loops. Still got 3 loops on the hook. That's the one from the previous, and this is the current one that we're on now. And we're going to do one more. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. There's 5 loops on it. Yarn over and go through 2 loops. Then to complete that, well, we've got 4 loops on the hook, we're going to yarn over and go through all 4 loops. And we're going to chain 2. I'm going to show you this one more time, and then I want you to complete it all the way around in all of the chain spaces. Okay, just get my threads behind again. So yarn over, insert your hook into the chain space and pull up a loop. Yarn over and go through 2 loops. Yarn over, insert your hook into the chain space, yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and go through 2 loops. It's your second treble. Yarn over, insert your hook into the chain space and pull up a loop. Yarn over and go through 2. That was your third treble. I'm going to yarn over and go through all 3, and we're going to chain 2. So go ahead and complete your clusters of 3 trebles in each of the chain spaces with 2 chains between each, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so I've just completed my last cluster, and I'm going to chain 2, and to finish this row we need to slip stitch into the top of our first cluster. But what I'm going to do is change back to the white colour now. Obviously if you've stayed in your original colour, just slip stitch there and get ready for the next round. You can change the colour as often as you want in these, but this is the way that I like to do them. So I'm going to insert my hook, take my original colour and wrap the yarn across the top of the hook, pull it through that stitch and pull it through the loop that's on my hook. And as always, I'm going to tie a knot behind, and then I'm going to snip off my second colour. And then while I'm here, I'm going to snip off the threads left over by my original colour change. Save sewing those in the end. I've still got my original tail from the chain 5, but I'll sew that in later. And that's the end of that row. So the next row we're going to be working in the chain spaces again. So we're going to slip stitch into that first chain space. So insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, and take that loop through the chain that's on your hook. Then we're going to do a chain of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now don't get confused here, we won't be working in clusters. Every stitch is individual, even though we're going to be working into these chain spaces. So we're going to do a double treble into this space here. Okay, so we're going to yarn over twice, insert our hook into that chain space, yarn over and pull up a loop. Should have 4 loops on the hook. Going to yarn over and go through 2 loops, yarn over and go through 2 loops, and yarn over and go through the final 2 loops. We're going to do another one of those, so yarn over twice, insert your hook into that same space, yarn over and pull up a loop. 4 loops, yarn over and go through 2, yarn over and go through 2, and yarn over and go through the final 2. So that's our 3. We're going to be working in 3s again, but we need to now change this from a circle into a square. So to do this, we're going to do a chain of 2, and in the same space we're going to do another 3 double trebles. So we're going to yarn over twice, insert our hook into that space, yarn over and go through 2 loops, yarn over and go through 2 loops, yarn over and go through 2 loops. Do that again, yarn over twice, insert your hook and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through 2 loops, 2 loops, 2 loops, and one more into that same space. So this will act as our corner. So then we're going to chain 1. So all the stitches are going to have chain 1s between except the corners, which will have a 2. So then we're going to do 3 trebles into that next chain space. So we yarn over once, insert your hook and pull up a loop. Yarn over and go through 2 and yarn over and go through 2. I'm going to do 2 more trebles into that same space. Yarn over, insert a hook and pull up a loop. Yarn over and go through 2 and yarn over and go through 2. One more. And we're going to chain 1. This is going to be the centre of our side, and in here we're going to do 3 half trebles. Remember, I'm talking UK terminology here. So yarn over, insert your hook and pull up a loop. Then we're going to yarn over and go through all 3 loops on the hook. And again, yarn over, insert a hook and pull up a loop. Yarn over and go through all 3. And once more, yarn over, insert a hook and pull up a loop. Yarn over and go through all 3. That's the centre of our side. We're going to chain 1 and then we're going to repeat what we've done here. So we're going to do 3 trebles into that next space. Yarn over, insert our hook into the next chain space, yarn over and go through 2, yarn over and go through 2, another, and another. So we've got 3 trebles in that space. We're going to chain 1. And now we're going to complete our next corner. So it's going to be the same as this. We're going to do 3 double trebles, a chain 2 and 3 double trebles. Yarn over twice, insert, you have to excuse my tummy rumbling, and pull up a loop. Yarn over and go through 2 loops, yarn over and go through 2, yarn over and go through 2, and do that 2 more times. And then we're going to chain 2 for our corner. And then in the same space we've got to do 3 more double trebles. Yarn over twice and insert your hook into that same space. And that's our second corner. And then we need to repeat what we did down the side. So we're going to chain 1 and do 3 trebles into that next space. So yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through 2, yarn over and go through 2. We want 3 of those in that space. Then we're going to chain 1 and do 3 half trebles into that next space, which is our centre of our side. So yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through 3, another one into that same space. That's the only trouble with this yarn, it splits, but it's brilliant for this type of bag. We're going to chain 1 and do 3 trebles into the next space. And then we're going to chain 1 and we're at the next corner. So we need to do our 3 double trebles, yarn over twice, remember, insert your hook and go through 2, go through 2 and go through 2. And we need 3 of those. My third one. Then we're going to chain 2 and do another 3 double trebles into that same space, which will create our next corner. And we're going to chain 1 and we're going to do 3 trebles into that next space, which brings us down our third side. Now I could pause the video here and get you to carry on and meet me back here at the end, but sometimes it's easier just to follow it, and then you're doing it at the right time rather than having to pause it all the time, catch up and unpause it. So I'm going to carry on this time. So there's your 3 trebles, a chain of 1, and we're going to do 3 half trebles into the centre of our side with the next chain space. Yarn over, insert hook, yarn over and go through all 3, and do that one more time. So you've got 3. I'm going to chain 1 and we're doing 3 trebles into that next space. So you'll see the pattern that we've got down the sides and then the corners. It's quite an easy pattern. And then we're going to chain 1, and then we're at the last corner. So in this one we're going to do our 3 double trebles again. Remember, you yarn over twice to start off with, and you go through 2, 2 and 2. Okay, and then we're going to chain 2 and in the same space do our other 3 double trebles. I will put the US terminology on the screen when I upload the video to make it easier for people. And this is my 3rd double treble. Then I'm going to chain 1, and then in the next space we're going to do our 3 trebles. Yarn over once, insert your hook, yarn over and go through 2 and go through 2. And we're going to do 3 of those and a chain of 1. Then we're going to do our half trebles into that middle space, which is yarn over, insert your hook and pull up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3. Then our final stitches of this round, let me just get some more yarn. I'm going to chain 1, and then the next space we're going to do 3 trebles again. We need to do our chain of 1. Then we need to slip stitch into the 3rd chain that we started with. So insert a hook, pull up a loop and take that loop through the chain on the hook. And that is the end of that round. And you should end up with a square with the double trebles in the corners with the chain 2s, with the half trebles in the centre, mirrored by either side by our trebles, and that's the end. Okay, so this is our last row of our squares in this pattern that I'm showing you. There's going to be some variations in the written pattern that I will pull up. So we're going to begin this round by chaining 3 to count as our first treble, and we're going to treble in every stitch all the way around. So we yarn over, insert our hook into the next stitch and pull up a loop, 3 loops, yarn over and go through 2, yarn over and go through 2. And the next stitch across, we're going to do another treble. Remember, this is in double in the US. And we find that now we're at the corner where the chain 2 is. In the corners, we're going to do 2 trebles. And to keep the shape, we're going to do a chain of 2. And we're going to do another 2 trebles into that same chain 2 space. And then we're going to do another treble into the next stitch along. And in each stitch around, including the chain spaces that we created. So I've just done a treble in the top of my last double treble. I'm going to do a treble into the chain space, separating the previous row. And then I'm going to do another treble into the top of the next treble across. And go ahead and complete your trebles in every stitch around, including your chain spaces. And remember, when you get to a corner, it's 2 trebles, chain 2, 2 trebles, and then carry on. And I'll meet you back here when you've completed. Okay, so I've completed my trebles in each stitch around. I've done my last one in the chain 1 space, and then I'm going to slip stitch into my starting chain of 3, the top of it. So into the 3rd chain, yarn over and pull up a loop and take that loop through the loop that's on your hook. And I'm going to pull up the yarn and snip it off. Now you should end up with 23 trebles in each side with a chain of 2 in the corners. And if you crochet nice and loosely all the way around and you don't change your tension, it should be lovely and flat, so you shouldn't need to block it. And with the pattern that we're going to be joining with anyway, we will be joining them all together and it will pull them into a straight line anyway. So go ahead and sew in your ends. So there you have your completed square, and we need to complete 13 of these squares to make the bag. So go ahead, stop the video, rewind it, complete your 13 squares, and I'll show you how to. Next job is to assemble your bag. So we're going to take your squares and we're going to fold the first one in half. That will be the bottom of your bag. Then we're going to place one, I'm trying to arrange the camera, and I'll tilt it up when I've laid them all out, on top of the squares. And we're going to place one above that. And we're going to fold another one in half and put that on one side, and another one in half and fold that on the other side. And then to finish off this side of the bag, we're going to place one on the top of each side. So once it's sewn together, let's see if I stand on tiptoes to show it to you. That is the layout. Now obviously we need a reverse to the bag. So these squares that are flat, we need to make sure we've got their partner behind them. Now remember that they are front and reverse. You'll see that there's a curlier reverse which will go behind, so this will be inside, and then we have a more flatter front which will be the outside of the bag. So we need to do that for each of them. So I'm going to turn that one over to make the reverse one, put one on top which is going to be this side that we're viewing, turn this one over and put one on top, which is going to be this side's viewing. 2 more to do. Last one. So that is our bag placed in the correct order. And what we're going to do is we're going to be working across, let me get my finger in the camera, we're going to be working up and down on the front and then on the reverse of the bag, and then we're going to go to the next row and we're going to go up and down and up and down. We're going to turn the bag over and do the same on the other side and finish off by going up to the very top and working down and up and down and up and turning the bag over and doing the same on the reverse, and then I'll show you how to sew in the straps. So if you're an experienced crocheter, you can go ahead and attach your squares together to form your bag using half treble crochets to join each square together. I have created a separate video for those of you that need more in-depth instructions. Even if you just begin by looking at it, it is quite lengthy. I have done it step by step across each square, so it does take some time. You might find it good as a reference. I'll leave the link. To complete your straps, you will need your main colour yarn, and I'm using the smaller 4mm crochet hook. I'm starting to slur my words again as my Emmy's kicking in. Okay, so we're going to create a slip knot and then we're going to chain 4, and that's how many stitches our strap is going to have across. We're going to chain 2 more and we're going to half treble into the third stitch, the third chain across. Insert your hook, pull a loop, 3 loops, and take the yarn through all 3 loops. Yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch across, and complete another half treble. Remember, in the US that's a half double. So we're going to yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops, and one more, and then we have our 4 half trebles. Now with this bag we want a nice straight edge, so instead of chaining at the start of our rows, we're going to be doing an alternative chain. I'm going to show you how to complete that. Let me just try and adjust the camera. The lighting's gone very dark in here. Okay, so we're just going to turn a work. I know you're itching to chain, but we're not going to chain. So turn your work. We're going to insert our hook back in to that first stitch. Going to yarn over and pull up a loop. So we've got 2 loops on a hook. Going to yarn over and go through both to create a double crochet or a single in the US. We're going to insert our hook into the side loop of that same stitch that we've just created, and we're going to, I can't do it round the iPad, so insert your hook, hopefully you've not done it as tight as me, yarn over and pull up a loop. So now we've got 2 loops back on the hook. We're going to yarn over and go through both loops. So as you can see, this is a lot thicker than a chain, and it's going to create a nicer, straighter edge for us. So in the next stitch across, we're going to do a half treble again. So yarn over, insert your hook and pull up a loop, 3 loops, and then go through all 3 loops. Again, the next stitch, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops. And one more time, yarn over, insert your hook. Sometimes this last stitch curls on the chain. I'm struggling to get mine in. There we go. This is the trouble with crocheting tightly like I do. Hopefully you're a lot looser a crocheter. So there's our second row. So I'll show you one more time the alternative chain. So we're not going to chain, we're just going to turn our work. We're going to insert our hook into that first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. I'm going to try not to do it as tightly this time. 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through both loops. Then we're going to insert our hook into that side loop, yarn over and pull up a loop. 2 loops, yarn over and go through both loops. Then in the final 3 stitches we're going to do half trebles. Yarn over, insert a hook and pull up a loop. Yarn over and go through all 3 loops. Yarn over, insert a hook into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops. One more time into the last stitch. And there we have it. And as you can see, we're starting off, obviously we've got our yarn here, so it's not as straight yet, but you'll see that we're creating a lovely straight edge here for our bag, and rather than the chains we're going to be able to insert our edging without it leaving any big gaps in the next stitch across, which is going to be great. So go ahead and carry on completing these 4 stitches in the row, starting with an alternative chain at the beginning and 3 half trebles. Turn your work and do it again until you have 76 rows. And then once you've done that, you need to repeat it so that you end up with 2 straps. And here's some I made earlier. So as you can see, lovely straight edges, and we end up with the 2 straps. Go ahead, complete that, and I'll show you how to. Okay, so you've completed both of your straps, and the next section is to insert your edge to your strap. So we're going to bring in our second colour. Mine is the brown. Going to join it in into the corner, and I do mine with a knot. And the outer edge of the strap is really simple. We're just going to be using double crochets, that's single in the US, in every stitch around. So we've joined in our colour, going to chain 1, and we're going to go into the next stitch across, and in all the rows around, creating our double crochets. Get my first hook in. I'm now crocheting without my glasses, which doesn't help. So there's 1, and in each space you can see around your strap we're going to be creating the double crochets, single in the US. And every hole you see all the way across, and this stops it from curling. If you start to see it curl, it's probably that you're crocheting too tightly on the edge, or you're not inserting enough double crochets in the outer edge. So you want to go through and make sure you create that lovely straight edge. And once you get to the corners, each corner is going to have a double crochet, a chain of 2 and another double crochet in, and then work your way around, and your strap will look like this. Okay, so if you complete that, and then I will show you how we assemble the straps. So to finish off your straps of your bag, what you need to do is either sew them directly onto your bag, and you would do this at the top point of the 2 top squares, so the diamond shape, and you would sew them there. place them on the inside and stitch them in. What I'm going to do though is use my keychains to slot into the top few stitches. So I simply need to sew the keychains into my straps by folding the end of my strap with the keychain through it and sewing that in place there. And then what I will do is thread those few the rings through the top few stitches. So go ahead and stitch or join in your rings that you're attaching to your bag and then attach them to the bag, and there your bag should be finished. Sorry about the shaky camera. Zoom in. So I've attached my straps with keychains, use the chains and some beads to make some nice embellishments for the bag. And the bag measures, let me set it down so I don't give you all a headache with moving it around too much. And get the tape measure. If we go from the bottom corner up to where the straps are, it's 15 inches, that's 38 centimetres, and on the smallest point it is 11 inches, that's 28 centimetres, and across it's 14 inches, 36 centimetres. And you can make the straps bigger if you'd like, but I find that this one's quite a nice light one. I have also made a slightly different bag. I'll just get this one out, which I've been using, so it's a little bit more floppy. And this one I made with a slightly different centre. I didn't two-tone it, I only two-toned the joins, and this bag is 15 inches across, 38 centimetres, and up it is 16, so it's an extra inch on the other bag, and it's 41 centimetres, and you'll see the difference with just, sorry you can hear my dog in the background barking at the lawnmower company. So you can see with this one slightly different is that I've added in an extra row. Of treble crochets with a chain one in beneath, and I've done that after my corner row before I've done my final treble crochets in every stitch around. So say there's a variation, I will put that variation in the pattern, and I've made a slightly longer handle. It is quite long. And that is because the bag's slightly bigger, you can get more stuff in it, and I wanted this one for comfort, and I've used treble crochet instead of half treble crochets for the strap with double crochets around the edge. I'll put that all in the written pattern so it makes more sense to you. I hope you enjoyed this video and it actually makes sense. Please leave me some comments, it's the only way that I'm going to be able to improve my videos. Thank you very much.